Hey guys, welcome back to Shop Life. It's been quite a while since I've done an update video on the 66 Mustang that we've been working on. So we had a lot of plans for the car. I know on my last video where we introduced it and pulled the engine and transmission out of the donor car, we had mentioned that we wanted to use as much of the stuff from the donor car as we could. Just like the, the electronic steering, all of the harnesses from inside, like the body harness and all that. And we wanted to use all that, utilize all the stuff that we already had with the donor car. But both me and my neighbor who actually owns the car, he owns a machine shop right next door, we got really slammed. It's been like a few months since we even touched the car. Lately we've just been getting back into working on it. He actually ended up selling the entire shell from the donor car. So the guy that bought it wanted the whole harness, the rear end, the steering, all that. So we just sold all of that. And my neighbor, his name is Mark, actually ended up buying the Ford racing harness, which comes with a gas pedal, a simplified harness, and also the ECU for it. And since he is going to keep the automatic transmission, it was actually a different model than the normal Ford racing harness, which uses the manual transmission. The harness was on back order for quite a while. We just got it in about a week ago, and we're starting to work on it again. Mark and his son both have been welding away on this car for the past few weeks. They've been making the transmission tunnel. They've actually even made an engine stand for the engine right here. They also ended up making this engine stand so it's easier to move around. As you can see, I mean, they've done quite a bit of work. Mark ended up machining the stock engine mounts. So he cut off, so you can see the stock engine mount arms. So he machined them down a little bit so that they're skinnier and they're actually able to fit right onto the suspension. So you can see how that hole is threaded right there and the excess metal is cut around. You can see right here as well. So all the excess metal, this one still needs to be grinded down a little bit more, and both of the holes are already threaded, so it's just gonna have more of a spacer rather than a bushing. So something made out of Delrin or poly. Obviously it's gonna be really hard, but it can be done. You can use those factory engine mounts and it does line up. So if you're using this type of suspension style on your Mustang, you should be able to use the factory mounting arms and just figure out exactly what type of bushing you want to put in between. So the bushing itself is probably going to be about 1.5 inches to 2 inches, and once we figure that out, we'll let you guys know some more about it. But today's whole project for this car in the update video is going to be to remove all the smog stuff, change the intake, change all the wiring that we don't need, and replace it with the Ford racing harness. Since this is an automatic, the harness that they provide requires you to use part of the harness that came with it from factory for the transmission. So this harness right here that goes to the transmission and also to these coil packs is going to be reused. So this connector will go to the PCM that's provided with that race harness, and this connector attaches to the harness itself, the race harness, and it's pretty much like an engine link. And also with the kit, they provide you new radiator hoses. They provide you with new upper and lower radiator hoses, even a new PCV hose, the throttle boot, the gas pedal, the clutch switch if you're gonna go manual, although we're just gonna be keeping it automatic, so we don't need to do that, and even the airbox. So that's all the other stuff that they provided with the kit. It's about $1,600 and some change. He also ended up buying this Velocity intake manifold, a power steering pump, AC kit with the bracket, the pulleys that are necessary for it, as well as all the mounting hardware. And all this stuff he got from Top Street Performance. They make a bunch of stuff for these 5.0s as well as LS motors. So, and they're actually really, really cheap compared to all of their competitors, but the quality of the stuff is not cheap at all. They're right here in Santa Fe Springs, California. But anyways, let's go ahead and get to work. I'm gonna start pulling off this intake and start taking off all the wiring that we don't need. So as you've seen, I went ahead and removed the intake manifold, fuel rail, the extra hoses that were in the way. I pulled all that off. I also went ahead and pulled off the AC compressor that it came with and pulled off all of the mounting, the belts and all that. Then we put this mounting bracket that they gave us, put the idler pulley on it. Here's a power steering pump. The pulley that goes on here is actually a press fit, so we're just gonna press that in afterwards. Right now I'm just trying to see how everything lines up, and then we'll go from there. And then we also have the AC compressor, which goes right here. That is also included with their kit. So I'm about to go ahead and put that on right now. Alright, so the kit is installed now. Only thing that we still need to do is press that pulley in on the power steering pump. Also remove the 3 bolts from the water pump pulley. Get another OEM water pump pulley, which we're going to mount in reverse. The second pulley is going to run the AC compressor, power steering pump, and all of that. And then the other normal pulley that's already there, the first one, that's just going to run the rest of the accessories. So the alternator, it's going to run off of the crankshaft, and then there's the idler pulley for that. And then here's the tensioner. We're also going to be putting a oil filter and oil cooler relocation kit, so that way it's going to be externally mounted. Main reason is because this filter actually is hitting the power steering rack, so we're just going to remove that entirely, put a remote oil filter, and get rid of this cooler as well. So all that's going to be gone. The new cooler is just going to be air controlled, so just like a radiator. And besides that, all of the front is mostly put together. We're also going to check for the clearance for the AC compressor and all that once we put it back into the chassis. But now let's go ahead and move on to that wiring harness, take off all the stuff we don't need, and hook up that new intake manifold. Alright, so the new harness, all it really needs to plug into is the starter, alternator, mass airflow sensor, the PCM module, obviously, which is the engine control. There should be 2 if you have automatic. This is the automatic harness right here. That also goes to the transmission. And then this is the one that controls all of the engine firing and all of that. These wires right here for the engine link plug into the harness as well. And that's how it gets all of the information for all of the other sensors. So initially I thought we would be replacing these 2 as well with the race pack harness. It actually does not include those connectors. So because that runs off of the same harness as that transmission. So besides that, I mean, all these connectors you don't really have to mess with. So the only thing that you really have to do is you don't have to remove the manifold to put this harness on if you're using an automatic. So what I'm probably going to end up doing is I'm just going to put this harness on after we have everything else lined up, everything else is good. That way we don't damage the fuse box, because the rest of this actually goes into the car. So you have this part, this whole harness goes into the car. So you have this section right here for the fuel pump relay, ignition relay, and all of that. Then you have this for your throttle pedal. You also have a OBD2 port that has a built-in light. So when that light turns on, that indicator light, that means you have a fault. So I believe there's also this light that's built into the OBD2 port, which I'm guessing turns on when you have a malfunction or something like that. It might have different colors, we don't know yet. I haven't really read the manual as much, but once we hook this up, we'll know for sure. Then we also have a ground, and we also have a clutch connector. But yeah, besides that, we are going to be eliminating some of these connectors right here. I'm going to leave everything for right now until we have the engine running properly, and then we'll take out whatever we don't need and clean it up. But let me go ahead and install this manifold and see how it looks. So here's that velocity intake from Top Street. As far as like, you know, any vacuum needs that you might need, they have these 4 connectors that go on the bottom. I just went ahead and screwed all 4 of them in for now so I don't lose them, but you can figure out which ones you need to use by, you know, just putting like a 90-degree angle. This is at the bottom of the intake. They also give you all 8 gaskets, so I went ahead and put those on. Just gonna clean up the whole mating surface from here as well as the engine, then we'll go ahead and put this on. Obviously I am gonna have to remove it again to figure out which ones we need and what we're gonna hook the vacuum ports up to. I mean, I might even have enough access from the back from underneath. So we'll just see once we have everything put together. The main reason I'm putting this on right now is whenever we test fit the engine, we want to make sure we have all the clearance that we need, and that's also the reason that we went ahead and put all that on. The wiring, I would have put the wiring on as well, but I don't want to damage any of that, so we're just going to leave that alone for right now. And most of that is just going to be from the bottom, so that's not a big deal. So let's go ahead and put this intake on and see how it looks. Alright, so I got the intake on. The fuel rail would not fit, so what I had to do is I reversed it. So that section used to be in the front, so I put it backwards. But I mean, the injectors are all the same. It's not like they have a different injector for each cylinder in terms of, like, you know, type of injector. So that should still work. Everything will still plug in fine. Only thing is, so they do sell their own fuel rail, and I'm guessing if you would have bought their fuel rail, it would line up perfectly. But with this fuel rail, we are going to have to make another spacer or something that goes between each bolt. We'll probably end up making that, and then we'll secure it down. But besides that, everything else fits pretty good. It looks really nice. We also do have the O-ring for the throttle body, and the throttle body goes right in the front. All the other hoses will still fit. The PCV hose will still fit. Same with this coolant hose, that'll still fit. And there's a lot of space underneath here, so if we ever wanted to, you know, hide the wiring or do like a wire tuck or whatever, we can probably figure out a way to just utilize that space in there and do that. Alright, so that's it for this video. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll try to keep you guys updated now that there's going to be a lot more stuff going on with the Mustang. Whenever we make some more progress, I will get back in touch and you guys can see what we're doing. The main reason I'm documenting this swap is I haven't really seen that much documentation on any swap like this. These swaps have been done countless times, but there's no documentation. So I'm trying to show you guys exactly what all is required and how deep the process is and what all we're doing in order for it all to work. I know we've changed a lot of plans from our initial video where we were going to use the harness from the 2016 Mustang, but this is a lot easier. If I still had the choice, I would have tried to utilize that stock harness, so that way, you know, because this whole car is going to have to be wired anyways for the dome lights, headlights, tail lights, and obviously that harness from the 16 is a lot. They have a lot other modules that are unnecessary, but it would have been cool to be able to utilize that. But anyways, that's it for this video. Stay tuned for any other updates. If you also want to go check out other swaps like this, we're doing an LS swap in that BMW right there. So if you want to check that out, make sure you go check out BMW Selena's YouTube channel. We're documenting everything on her channel. And yeah, thanks for watching.